Flat pedals for life. We're talking about flat mountain bike pedals. Specifically, I want to hone in on composite pedals. Composite basically means a combination of materials. It's essentially a hard plastic. I want to compare the RaceFace Chester with the OneUp Components composite pedal, and then I want to throw in the mix a cheap Amazon offering, this RockBros, which is quite clearly a knockoff of the OneUp Components pedal. They are currently available on Amazon for $23.99. Most of the places that you look, the OneUp Components composite pedal is $49, and then the Chesters are currently available online for anywhere from $35 to $49 as well, which is a great price point for something that you're going to be beating into the rocks and roots of your trail. So I've ridden several prior pairs of these RaceFace Chester pedals before. I've never had any issues with durability. I've never had the bearings go bad, and I've generally always really enjoyed these. I think that it's a great price point. They hold up well, and then you can always get a color that you like just to add a little bit of variety to your setup. I really liked the OneUp Components composite pedal when it first came out. Really kind of preferred the more open look that the platform has. I also really appreciate the fact that the OneUps have these sort of serrated indentions in the body of the pedal, which should in theory help with grip, and we'll test that out shortly. And I've been on this OneUp Components pedal for about 6 months now and have had also no durability issues whatsoever. I cannot say that I've been on the OneUp nearly as long as I've ridden previous pairs of the RaceFace Chester, but I've definitely spent, I think, enough time to be able to attest to the durability. To be honest, I've already gotten $50 worth if they quit on me now, but there's no sign of really any excess wear on these. I've had to replace 2 pins on these pedals, and that's just my own fault for bashing them into rocks. But yeah, spindles are still spinning very smoothly, bearings still feel solid, and so no complaints so far with this pedal. When you compare the RockBros to what it's knocking off in the OneUp, it's actually a little bit bigger. It's also a little bit thicker, and only by a few millimeters, I'm assuming, but probably what's going to be the most noticeable on the bike is the fact that the spindle is actually longer. So effectively this one is going to stick out from the bike. We'll see if there's a noticeable difference that causes on the bike. I don't know why anybody would run anything more expensive than these. I don't personally notice any benefit in running. I've ridden some pretty expensive aluminum pedals. To be honest, I prefer the feel of these. I think the grip is just a little bit better. So we'll now compare the weight of these 3 pedals in grams. So you can see the RockBros comes in at 208 grams. The RaceFace Chester, and with just the pedal on the silver part of the scale, it's 183. And then the same with the OneUp, also coming at 183. As far as the platform thickness, I'm getting 15.2 millimeters for the RockBros, getting 14.5 millimeters for the Chester, roughly 13.8 millimeters for the OneUp Composite. In the order of least to greatest, the RockBros, followed by the Chester, followed by the OneUp. The difference between the OneUp and the Chester is minimal, and yet it has a vastly different looking, particularly when you look at it from this profile. But these 2 pedals, the OneUp has 10 pins per side, whereas the Chester has 8 pins per side. The RockBros, being in the style of the OneUp pedal, it has also 10 pins per side. On the Chester, there are no serrated parts like is found on the OneUp Composite. So it's starting to rain, which I just think is phenomenal conditions to do platform pedal and flat shoe mountain bike testing. So what I'm running here is the OneUp Components composite pedal on the left, and then the newer RockBros composite pedal on the right. Again, it is noticeable the difference from the crank, and when I place my shoe on it, it just seems like it fits on there perfectly. My size 10, 5'10" free rider comes right to the edge. When I compare that to the OneUp Composite, there is just a little bit of area on the shoe that hangs over, but only by a few millimeters. But you have less room for air if you scoot it out just a little bit at all. There's definitely probably 3 or 4
millimeters hanging over there. But you can definitely tell the increased surface area on the RockBros. So again, if you have a bigger shoe, it might really be worth considering those pedals. It does seem like you're having to search for the optimal placement on the RockBros, perhaps a little bit less, but if you have a bigger size shoe, if you're a Bigfoot, consider the RockBros. Just first few cranks on the RaceFace Chesters. Man, it's just such a toss-up on these. They're all decent pedals. I feel like they feel very similar underfoot. So let's ride them and see. As far as the concavity of these pedals, meaning do they have just a slightly bit of a depression so that you're not slipping around and it feels like your shoe kind of sucks into the pedal? Yeah, I mean, I think it feels somewhat comparable to the OneUp and the RockBros, maybe a little bit less so. It does seem like there's just a little bit more freedom of movement on these pedals. Let's ride it and find out. Solid feeling pedals. I'm not sure that I'm good enough to tell a difference, other than I can, similar to the OneUps, feel just a few millimeters of my shoe hanging over the edge of the pedal, whereas I didn't notice that on the RockBros. But I can't say that that really affected the riding feel. I mean, I felt just as confident on the very first run with the Chesters as I did after several runs with the OneUps. So I can tell you that really I don't think there's a bad decision between the three of these pedals, and that you can't go wrong with any of them. So this is the comparison that perhaps many of you came to see. That is the comparison between the RaceFace Chester and the OneUp Components composite pedal. Right out of the gate, I can say that the OneUp feels a little bit grippier. Is it enough to be able to notice in back-to-back testing? I don't think so, because I didn't really notice it as much when I was just running the Chester. But I do think that there's something to be said for the increased space that your shoe is kind of able to mold down in. Plus there is actually one extra pin, and there is the kind of serrations that are in the OneUp pedals. These Chesters only have 4 pins. They don't have the sort of cutouts in the composite material. And so I think with a foot on each pedal, using the 510s, I'm gonna give a nod to traction actually to the OneUps. Verdict remains the same. I do feel just a nudge of increased traction on the OneUps. Again, that's my bias. I have no reason to tell you that, because I've always liked the Chesters. I still think they're a great pedal. I still think for most people the choice should come down to aesthetics and which you like the look of better.
So back in the office, my overall impressions: you cannot go wrong with the RaceFace Chester or the OneUp Components composite pedal. Again, I've had multiple pairs of the RaceFace Chester. They've all performed phenomenally. I've never had one fail me over several years actually riding these. I've been on these for 6 months. I really, really like the OneUp pedals as well. For me, I do feel just slightly more grip, I think, with the OneUps. And interesting to throw in the mix, again, the RockBros. I'm not a huge fan of promoting knockoffs, because OneUp is the designer of this product. OneUp is known for their quality in products. You can see my dropper post review And see, I'm a big fan of their dropper posts, and this is right on par with the quality that I've come to expect from OneUp components. And so for me personally, I'm not going to trust an Amazon knockoff. When I go on a mountain bike trip, I want to be able to trust my kit, and it's not worth me saving roughly $20, $25 to get these. I will say though, the one caveat to that, if you have an exceptionally large foot, and I would say that really anything above a 10.5 or 11, I think you're actually going to notice the increased size of these. And so it might be worth looking into a pedal that's a little bit bigger than the OneUp if you have an exceptionally large foot, because I did actually appreciate the increased size of the platform. Give flat pedals a try. If you're on the fence, if you're kind of searching whether or not that's right, I think that you will be able to progress in your bike handling skills, things like manualing and jumping, by leaps and bounds if you'll just commit to going with flats. You should be able to bunny hop in flat pedals. You should be able to jump in flat pedals. You should be able to climb well in flat pedals. It's such a common misnomer. People ask me all the time, how do you climb without using clips? If you have the right mechanics, you can actually pull up on these, especially if you combine these with a good set of 510s. See my review of those. You can actually pull up into the pedals. And so definitely put flats on your radar. It just gives you so much more freedom of movement. It's my strong preference. It's not for everyone. Get yourself a set of RaceFace Chesters or a set of OneUp components, or if you have big feet, maybe try these RockBros or another type. Just check them out. Thanks for watching. So to change the pins on a platform pedal, if you'll notice, I am missing one of the pins here. It's just simply busted off due to an impact. And so basically you want to find the size Allen key that fits. And the cool thing is the actual body of the platform will hold the nut in place while you actually back that out. Essentially the pins on a platform pedal are nuts and bolts. It's quite simple. You want to back that all the way out, and you can see there it is in fact broken off. Of course, going to discard that, and the nut should pop right out of the body. Now again, you can get on OneUp's website if you're specifically doing the OneUp pedals, or you can see what size bolt your particular platform pedal requires for these OneUps. It uses one of these socket head cap screws. It's an M3 by 10. You're going to take your nylock nut, insert it into the pedal like so, and the body of the pedal will keep that nut from turning, and you literally just have to thread this back in. If you want, it will not hurt to put just a little bit of thread lock on there, just so that you know things aren't going to be backing out. Get that started by hand, like so, and then simply tighten. It's going to take you quite a few turns to get that threaded back up in there. You're going to have to take your thumb and hold the nut down into the body until you get the threads advanced quite a bit further. And then once you start to get it tight, take it another quarter, half, 3/4 at most turn until it's snug. And you can see that comes out to be exactly the same height as the other pins, or as we know now what they actually are, little mini bolts.